The moment he lifted my veil, he whispered, "I don't love you. I just couldn't cancel with everyone here." Then he smiled for the cameras. I stood there, stunned, as 100 people clapped, and my world shattered in slow motion. But if he thought I'd walk away quietly, he didn't know me at all. Subscribe for more dramatic real-life stories where betrayal meets consequences, and the quiet ones always strike back. My name is Elise Montgomery. I'm 29, and I got married in front of 114 people on a perfect spring afternoon in Charleston, South Carolina. At least I thought I did. From the outside, it was everything I'd dreamed. White peonies, a string quartet, the historic brick church my grandmother had always loved. I'd spent 10 months planning every detail, 10 months dreaming of walking down that aisle to Connor. But when I reached the altar, veil trembling, and he leaned in to lift it, what he whispered shattered something inside me I didn't know could break. "I don't love you," he said quietly, "but I couldn't cancel with everyone here." Then he smiled. For the photos, for the guests, for his parents. And I smiled back, because I didn't know what else to do. Yet. The ceremony finished like clockwork. He kissed me. People clapped. I don't remember the drive to the venue. I don't remember the toast. All I remember is sitting at our sweetheart table, nodding, pretending, drowning in champagne. My mother leaned over at one point and said, "You're glowing, honey." If only she knew. But here's the thing about humiliation. It burns, but it also clears the air. By the time the cake was cut, I wasn't sad anymore. I was awake, and I had no intention of letting this go quietly. Connor had made a mistake. He thought I was soft, but I was raised by trial lawyers and hard truths. I knew how to smile through fury, and how to destroy someone without raising my voice. The first thing I did was stop drinking, not metaphorically, I mean literally. I set down the champagne, excused myself from the dance floor, and walked into the bridal suite upstairs. I locked the door behind me, changed out of my gown, and opened my laptop. You see, I'd been ignoring signs for months. Canceled dinners. Business trips to Atlanta that didn't match his calendar. And his phone? Always upside down. Always on silent. But I hadn't asked questions. I thought I was being paranoid. Now I knew better. I started with his iCloud. He never logged out of it on our shared MacBook. Within 15 minutes, I had access to his call history, texts, and backups, and that's when I saw it. Her name was Candace, a 22-year-old marketing assistant from his firm. Their messages went back 8 months. One of them, dated 4 days before our wedding, read, "Just a few more days, babe. I promise it's all for show." Another had a photo of them in our bedroom. I sat there, my hands trembling, but not from heartbreak, from clarity. He hadn't just betrayed me. He'd turned our wedding into a prop. I wasn't his wife. I was a shield, covering his affair, keeping his parents happy, holding up appearances. But if that's what he wanted, then I'd make appearances matter. Downstairs, the reception was still going. People dancing, drinking, telling stories about us. I walked back in like nothing had happened. In a simple white jumpsuit now, my hair pulled back, no veil. Connor did a double take. "You changed?" he asked, half laughing. "Yeah," I said. "I figured it's time to be comfortable for the next chapter." He smiled like an idiot. I smiled like a woman with a flash drive in her pocket. The DJ called for the final speeches. Connor's best man gave some generic monologue about loyalty and love. Then it was my turn. I stepped up to the mic, glass in hand, and looked out at the room full of family, friends, co-workers, and Connor's boss, Mr. Lansing. "I just want to say thank you," I began, voice steady, "for being here, For supporting what looked like love, people laughed politely. But appearances can be deceiving. Connor's smile froze. The DJ instinctively lowered the music. Chatter faded. You see, I learned something today. That love doesn't hide behind text messages. It doesn't book hotel rooms in Atlanta while pretending to visit clients. And it definitely doesn't whisper, "I don't love you," right before the vows. The silence in the room could crack glass. I turned to Connor. "You remember Candace, don't you?" I said. "She says hi, by the way. Lovely photos you two took. Very professional." Gasps rippled like aftershocks. His mother dropped her wine glass. His boss stood up. Connor's face turned gray. He tried to say something, anything. I held up the flash drive. Everything's on here. Backed up to 5 clouds. Oh, and since I legally took his name 3 hours ago, I'll enjoy sharing it during my interview tomorrow at the firm's HR department. Then I handed the mic to the DJ and walked out. By the time I reached the parking lot, half the guests were checking their phones. The other half were whispering like wildfire. I got into the car, my car, which he never bothered to register in his name, and drove to the hotel suite I'd booked under my maiden name. I had no intention of sleeping in the house we used to share. That night, I didn't cry. I sent emails. One to HR at Connor's firm. One to his boss, Mr. Lansing, with screenshots and a subject line that read, "Internal violation and hostile workplace risk." And one more, to Candace. If he told you I didn't know, he lied. If he told you I'd forgive him, he lied. If he told you this wouldn't touch your job, well, I guess we'll find out. By 9 a.m., Connor had been placed on unpaid leave. Candace was under internal investigation, and my attorney was already filing for annulment and financial discovery. But that wasn't enough, because the public humiliation I endured wasn't just emotional. It was professional, and I don't do halfway victories. See, I'm not just someone who married a man with a 6-figure salary. I'm a brand strategist. I built my own business, and my client list included a few media consultants and 3 event planners. Within 48 hours, one of those planners, Jessica, sent me a message. I heard what happened. I just bumped into Candace. She's pitching herself as a victim now. You might want to see this. Attached was a TikTok video. Candace crying into the camera, saying she didn't know he was really in love with his fiancée, and that the wedding day was the worst day of her life too. The caption: "He broke both our hearts," tagging my name. Using my wedding hashtag. I didn't respond. I posted. I uploaded a short, calm video. Just my face. No filters, no captions. "Hi, I'm Elise." Yes, that Elise. I wasn't going to respond, but when you take my pain and turn it into content, you've crossed a line. So here's the truth. I laid it all out. The messages. The hotel bookings. The whispered confession under my veil. The fact that she accepted a promotion from Connor 2 weeks after they slept together, despite having no seniority. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. And I ended it with this. You tried to hijack my story. But here's the thing, Candace. I don't let other people narrate my downfall. I write the sequel. The video hit 600,000 views in 4 days. And guess who got dropped by her influencer agency? The divorce process moved fast. Turns out, when you can prove infidelity with timestamps, photos, and a confession under a church roof, judges don't like to waste time. But here's what Connor didn't see coming. The prenup we signed 2 years ago had a good faith clause. Basically, if either party committed adultery and it impacted the public image or professional stability of the other, they forfeited all financial rights outside of the original asset split. He signed it without blinking back then. I'd never cheat on you, he said. He even made a joke about how I was the one to watch. Guess who just forfeited spousal support? Guess who had to vacate the apartment I fully paid for? Guess who ended up on the news, not for his wedding, but for being placed under investigation for inappropriate workplace relationships? I didn't have to destroy him. He gave me the match. I just let it burn. A month later, I was back in my office, stronger, sharper, and very, very busy. Media requests, podcast invites, brides reaching out saying, "You spoke for all of us." I turned it into something real. Launched a consultancy for women entrepreneurs who'd been professionally undermined by personal betrayal. Called it After the Aisle. We filled our first client roster in 2 weeks, and I finally started sleeping again. As for Connor, last I heard, he left town. He lives in a rented condo, low profile. Candace blocked him on everything after her agency dropped her. Apparently, betrayal isn't the best PR strategy after all. He tried to contact me once. A vague email with the subject, "Can we talk?" I didn't open it. I forwarded it to my lawyer. Some nights, I sit on the porch with a glass of wine and think about that moment at the altar. His whisper. That smile. The feeling of my heart freezing mid-beat. And I smile. Not because I forgive him, but because I remember the exact second I stopped being the woman he could manipulate and became the one who rewrote the ending. Let them whisper. Let them scroll. I survived public humiliation and turned it into a brand, a movement, and a quiet, permanent kind of victory. He thought he'd crushed me in front of everyone. But I made sure everyone saw who he really was. And that was my wedding gift to him.